Have you ever paid attention to how you talk to yourself? To that endless, relentless inner commentator? We are usually prisoners of old fears and the opinions of others. But he had found a way to break that chain. A small habit no one knew about. 3 simple sentences he said to himself every night before sleep. This was not magic. It was a psychological revolution. When the people around him saw the resolve in his eyes, they still thought he was simply lucky. But he had simply changed the course of his destiny through his inner dialogue. Then small changes began to appear in his life. Not all at once, not dramatically. Simply, as time passed, the direction of his life quietly shifted. It was as if everything slowly fell onto a different path, and he began moving along that path. Those around him noticed before he did. Something was different. He seemed calmer, more directed, like someone who now knew what he had not known before, but he had not learned anything new. He had simply been talking to himself differently. Most people talk to themselves all day, constantly. An endless inner commentary running beneath everything we do. We become someone who evaluates, criticizes, compares, and doubts. We simply do not choose what to say. It runs on its own, fed by old memories, old fears, old stories about who we are and what we are capable of. Because it is automatic, it feels like truth, like an honest assessment, like simply the way things are. But in reality, this is not an unchangeable truth. It is simply a habit, and habits can be changed. A person rarely takes seriously the idea that they can intentionally shape the content of their inner voice. Because we have always been taught that big changes only come with big, visible effort, the kind others can see and measure. That is why lying down quietly at night and saying a few words to yourself does not seem like serious work. It feels as though this cannot possibly create real change. But in those quiet moments, something else happens. When the noise of the day ends, when the demands stop, the mind becomes more open. That filter that protects us throughout the day, the doubt, the caution, the constant analysis, softens a little. It is precisely at that moment that the words you say to your mind penetrate deeper. But most people fill that time with other things. Unfinished worries, conversations they replay, thinking how they could have gone differently, a list of things that went wrong during the day, and an even longer list of things to do tomorrow. And the final message delivered to the mind at the end of the day is exactly this. And the mind takes it and carries it forward. What would change if you gave it something different instead? Not performance. Not forced positivity that your own mind immediately rejects, because it knows that is not true. Something real, something concrete, something that describes not who you are, but where you are going. A clear, quiet expression of what you are building, the person you are in the process of becoming, said in the same simple tone you would use when describing something to yourself that you already know to be real. He was doing this. 3 sentences. The same ones every night, adjusted slightly as things developed and his direction became clearer. He was not wishing. He was not hoping. He was rehearsing a reality that had not yet arrived, but was behaving as if he were already on the way. This is a difference between these 2 things that is easy to miss, but impossible to overstate. There is a great difference between wishing and rehearsing. When you wish, the thing you want seems distant from you, as if it is somewhere else, and reaching it depends on factors far beyond your control. Rehearsing does the exact opposite. It shows the thing you want not as a distant dream, but as something already moving through your life, as if you are already inside it, and each time you return to it, it becomes more real. The mind does not sharply distinguish between a vivid imagining and reality. This is not a mystical idea. It is simply a real observation about how the brain processes repeated thoughts and imaginings. When you return consistently to the same clear image, the mind begins to receive it as familiar. And familiar things make possible what unfamiliar things do not. They make it feel possible. Possibility changes behavior, not through great effort, but almost automatically. When something truly feels possible, as opposed to feeling like a distant dream, you reach for it. You take a slightly bolder step. You make a slightly less cautious decision. You stay a little longer when things get hard, because what you are working on feels real enough to be worth staying for. None of those changes seem large at first. They are quiet, not traumatic, but over time they accumulate. As weeks and months pass, something interesting happens. It becomes difficult to separate the effect of believing something is possible and acting accordingly from that thing actually coming to pass. The first thing that changed in his life was not the circumstances. It was the behavior. It was the choices. It was those quiet, daily decisions no one saw. Those small decisions made every day turned over time into a great direction. And in the end, It was precisely they that changed everything. Now comes the part that requires a little more honesty. Without loading meaning into the words, this does not work. Repeating something mechanically, like a task to be checked off before sleep, is something the mind registers as performance, nothing else. The words must carry meaning, a genuine feeling, a real commitment to what you truly want. This means you must know what you truly want, not what looks impressive, not what seems sensible given your current situation. What you truly, concretely want. Most people get stuck precisely here. I want more. I want things to be better. I want things to work out. All of it sounds fine, but it is too vague. And from a vague desire comes a vague result. The mind does not work this way. It needs a clear direction in order to function. A target concrete enough to hold on to. That is why, before saying those 3 sentences, you must do the harder work. Understanding what those sentences are. Knowing precisely where you are going. Clarifying what that path looks like for you, how it feels, what it means. In fact, this clarity itself is of great value. Because most people never reach it. There is a simple reason. They do not take the time to stop and think quietly. Choosing your sentences brings you face to face with a question. It forces you to make a decision. And the moment you decide, even if nothing has yet begun, something inside you has already started to change. Because once you have decided what you are moving toward, every day offers you 2 kinds of moments. Moments that serve that direction, and moments that do not. And you begin to see the difference. That seeing is the beginning of change. Repetition deepens it. By returning each night to the same clear expression, you reinforce the direction. You keep the signal strong against all the noise the day creates. Because the day creates a great deal of noise. Discouraging news, useless comparisons, small failures. Moments that make the small story feel truer than the large one. The nightly return is really for this. To quietly remind your mind each day of the story you have chosen. You remind yourself which direction you have chosen. This does not mean eliminating doubt entirely. Doubt will still come. The point is simply to direct your attention, not toward the doubt, but toward the direction you have chosen, and give that more space. When this happens, the first thing your mind reaches for upon waking in the morning is not the worries left over from the day before. Their place is taken by a clearer sense of the path you want to walk. That shift in your morning state is subtle, but significant. It first changes what you notice, what you feel capable of, how you approach the first decisions of the day. And those first decisions set the tone for everything that follows. He was not trying to change his life in a single night. He was changing one night into the next. Through a quiet return to 3 sentences that described something real, concrete, and genuinely desired. The nights accumulated. The mornings changed. The decisions changed. And the results, in the end, had no choice but to change along with them. Those looking for a dramatic version of this story will be disappointed. There was no single moment, no lightning bolt. No morning he woke up transformed. There was simply the steady, private, unremarkable practice of giving his mind something to work with. And his mind, far more capable than most of us give it credit for, did exactly what it does when given a clear direction. It found the way, not because he was an extraordinary person, not because of any special advantages no one else had. He had simply understood one thing, something most people never pay any attention to at all. The power of the conversation a person carries on within themselves every day. Because the most important dialogue in your life is not the one with others, not with your manager, not with your friend, not with your loved ones. The most powerful conversation is that quiet conversation going on inside, the one no one else hears. And what is interesting is this. Whether you choose the content of that conversation or not, it is already working. Right now, at this very moment, it continues to shape the world you see and the reality you live. The only question is whether you will continue to run it on the old program. The fears, habits, and stories written before you knew better. Or whether you will do what he did. At the end of the day, lie still for a few minutes. Choose 3 sentences that are true to where you are going. And say them to yourself with the quiet, simple certainty of someone who has already decided. This is not about saying it once and letting it go, nor about doing it until you feel good and then stopping. Every night, quietly, unhurriedly, returning to the same words. Until the distance between the sentences you say and the reality you live slowly grows so small that one day you look and see there is almost no difference left between them.